Family forgot to purchase my airline tickets to my sister's wedding in Hawaii. Sorry, honey, we forgot to reserve your spot and the hotel room for you. And now everything's fully booked. I was the sole family member kept out. I simply said, it happens. Then I vanished for a year and... Can you imagine being written out of your own sister's wedding? Not uninvited, but forgotten. That's exactly what happened to me, and it sparked a fire that burned my old life to the ground. It was a Tuesday afternoon, my cold coffee sitting forgotten on my desk in Denver. My mom called, her voice already telling me everything I needed to know, that syrupy sweet tone she used when she had to deliver bad news, but desperately wanted me to pretend it was and wasn't. "Samantha, honey," she started, "we need to talk about Jessica's wedding." My stomach dropped. I'd already requested the time off, ready to fly to Maui in just 3 weeks. "What about it?" I asked, my pen hovering over a quarterly report. Then a silence. A long, heavy silence that stretched across states and told me my life was about to change. She finally blurted it out. "Your father and I, we were handling all the travel arrangements, and somehow, we just forgot to book your ticket. And your hotel." Forgot? Just like that? Like I was a forgotten grocery list item? My sister's wedding. Peak season in Maui, they said. Everything was booked solid. I just stared at the picture on my wall. Last Christmas, all of us smiling. Jessica, my sister, with her arm around me. We were supposed to be close. "You forgot," I whispered, the words barely audible. "Sweetheart, these things happen." So many details, so much planning. Jessica's devastated, of course, but she understands. "We'll send you tons of photos." For 27 years, I'd been the forgettable one. The quiet, reliable middle child. Not the golden daughter, Jessica, the architect. Not Danny, the charming entrepreneur. Just Samantha. Always there, always overlooked. And I'd let them. "That happens," I said, my voice flat, empty. Mom breathed a sigh of relief. "Oh, I'm so glad you understand. Jessica was so worried you'd be upset. You know how sensitive she is." Sensitive? My blood ran cold. After that call, I just sat there. For an hour. A cold rage settled deep in my bones. When I finally moved, it wasn't to look for last-minute flights to Maui. Oh no. I opened my laptop and started researching something else entirely. The next day, I walked into Patricia's office, my supervisor. She looked genuinely shocked when I told her I wanted a leave of absence. "A year?" she asked, her eyebrows practically hitting her hairline. "Samantha, is everything all right?" I just nodded. "Everything's fine. I have some personal projects to pursue. I've been here 6 years, Patricia. I need a break to figure out my next steps." Patricia studied me. She knew me. The quiet, reliable analyst. The one who fixed problems without drama. The one everyone forgot. "You know what, Samantha?" she finally said, a small smile playing on her lips. "You deserve it. You've been carrying this department for years. Go. Your position will be here when you get back." I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in years. That evening, I sent a message to the family group chat. Because who answers calls anymore, right? "Hey everyone," I wrote, trying to keep my voice neutral in my head as I typed. "Not going to make the wedding, but I hope it's beautiful. Taking some time for myself. Going to be offline for a while. Love you all." Jessica's reply popped up instantly. "Wait, what? Where are you going?" I didn't answer. Instead, I turned off my phone and opened my laptop again. Over the next week, my life became a whirlwind of packing and purging. I sold my furniture, stored my car, rented out my apartment. Everything I owned fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. My family? They called. And called. Jessica's messages grew frantic. "Sam, this is weird. Where are you going? Are you okay? Please call me back." Danny texted, "Dude, what is going on? Mom is freaking out." I ignored them all. Every single one. The day before Jessica's wedding, as my family was likely packing for Maui, I boarded a plane. Not to Hawaii. I was going to Tokyo. I'd always dreamed of Japan, and I'd been saving for years. What they didn't know was how much I'd saved. Frugal living, smart investments. I had enough for an extended journey. As that plane lifted off, I felt it for the first time in years. Pure, unadulterated freedom. I spent 3 glorious weeks in Japan. Hostels, street food, temples, attempting terrible Japanese with patient locals. I learned calligraphy in Kyoto. An elderly woman in Osaka, who reminded me so much of my grandma, taught me to make soba noodles. Grandma. She was the only one who remembered my birthday every single year. She'd left me a small inheritance, a private trust, with a letter that arrived on my 25th birthday. Samantha, you have always been the one who thinks before acting, who plans quietly while others make noise. Use this wisely. Make yourself proud. I'd invested it. Watched it grow. Now, I was using it exactly as she intended. From Tokyo, I bounced to Seoul, then Bangkok. No photos, no updates. Just me, a backpack, and a journal, existing in a bubble of blissful anonymity. In Chiang Mai, I found a digital marketing course. 6 weeks. I'd always been good with data, but here, I discovered a real knack for online business strategy. Meanwhile, my family? Once every 2 weeks, I'd pop into an internet cafe, turn on my phone for just a moment, and see the chaos I'd left behind. Jessica's wedding had happened. I logged onto social media once on a borrowed tablet. White sand, sunset, stunning dress. Everyone looked picture-perfect happy. No one looked like they missed me. But my inbox? It told a different story. 47 emails from Mom. 32 from Jessica. Over 20 from Danny. Even my dad, who never touched email, had sent 3. Subject line screamed, "Where are you? Please call us. This is not funny anymore. We are worried sick." I read none of them. Not yet. Then, in Vietnam, I met Helen. An Australian expat. She'd been traveling for 15 years, building an export business from her laptop, connecting Vietnamese artisans to international buyers. Over coffee in Hanoi, she told me, "The thing about disappearing, Samantha, is you find out who you actually are when nobody's watching." I asked her what she found out. She just grinned. That I'm much more interesting than my family ever gave me credit for. We clicked. She taught me everything. International trade, cross-border supply chains, identifying quality. My old pharmaceutical background? It translated surprisingly well. We started a small project, helping ceramic artists in FuII reach European markets. It was supposed to be a learning experience. It became so much more. By month 4, I'd facilitated 3 successful shipments. Earned my first independent commission. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Money I'd earned through my own initiative. Not by being reliably overlooked. Helen saw it. She looked at my numbers and whistled. "You have a gift for this," she said, her eyes twinkling. "Ever think about doing it full-time?" "Maybe," I replied. I was a ghost, moving through Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Laos, back to Thailand. I learned to haggle, to spot quality, to navigate the delicate dance of cross-cultural business. I devoured online courses in international trade law. I worked with other digital nomads, small business owners. And slowly, meticulously, I built something real. By month 6, I was running my own consulting operation, connecting artisans with international distributors. I leveraged my old supply chain background to optimize shipping, negotiate better rates. I was good. Really good. Money started flowing, not a fortune, but enough to fuel my travels and save again. More importantly, I was growing in ways I never had back home, where I was just reliable Samantha, the one who never rocked the boat. My phone stayed off, except for those bi-weekly check-ins. The messages from my family shifted. Anger melted into concern, then guilt. "Mom, sweetheart, we know we hurt you. Please just let us know you're alive." Jessica's apologies were desperate now. "I'm so sorry about the wedding. I should have checked the arrangements myself. Please, Sam, talk to me." Even Danny's texts pleaded. Everyone is really worried. Dad hasn't been sleeping. Then, in month 7 in Bali, I found an email from my father. He'd actually managed to attach a video. My stomach tightened. I almost didn't watch it. But curiosity, that stubborn thing, won. Dad, looking older, wearier, stared awkwardly into the camera from his study. "Samantha," he began, his voice raspy. "What we did was wrong. Your mother and I, We got so caught up in making Jessica's day perfect, we forgot about you. That's not an excuse. You're our daughter, and we failed you. Please come home, or just let us know you're safe. I love you. I watched it 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and walked out to the beach. The anger? It was gone. Somewhere between Tokyo and Bali, between calligraphy and shipping contracts, it had burned itself out. What remained was clarity. I understood my own complicity. I'd been so busy being easy, being reliable, being the one who never caused problems, that I had let them forget I was there. But I wasn't ready to go back. Not yet. By month 8, I was in Barcelona. My consulting business was actually thriving. I had a steady stream of clients, mostly Asian manufacturers needing access to European markets. I'd picked up passable Spanish, decent Thai, serviceable Vietnamese. I had built a life that was entirely, unequivocally mine. Then, a message landed on LinkedIn. Of all places. It was from someone named Victoria, a senior buyer for Apex Pharmaceutical Distribution, a mid-sized company in Chicago. Her message was direct. Samantha, I was told you're doing impressive work in international supply chain. We're struggling with our Asian suppliers. Inconsistent quality, high shipping costs. Your background suggests you'd be perfect. Interested in a consulting contract? I stared at it. Apex. A competitor to my old employer. Smaller, yes, but aggressively expanding. I typed back, coolly, I'd be interested in learning more. Currently based in Europe, but available for video consultations. What's your timeline? Her reply came within the hour. How does tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Time sound? The video call happened in a Barcelona co-working space. Victoria appeared on screen. Sharp, no-nonsense, steely gray hair. Let me be direct, she said, after quick introductions. We're bleeding money on our Asian supply chain. Delayed shipments, quality issues, overpaying for freight. I heard you cut shipping costs by 30% for 3 different clients in 6 months, while improving delivery times. How? I walked her through my methodology, building genuine relationships with local suppliers, understanding logistics, negotiating as a partner, not just a buyer. Quality control that respected local practices. She listened, her questions precise, sharp. When I finished, she looked me dead in the eye. Samantha, I've been in this business 28 years. Most consultants talk a good game. You actually know what you're doing. I want to offer you a 6-month contract. Remote, but with travel. The pay is substantial. She named a figure. My heart actually skipped a beat. It was more than I'd made in a year at my old job. I need to think about it, I managed, keeping my voice steady. Of course, she said. But I need an answer by Friday. We're losing ground to competitors. I sat there for 2 hours after the call. This wasn't just small gigs. This was a real opportunity. Structure. Stability. Validation for everything I'd built. It also meant emerging from my self-imposed exile. I thought about my family, the ignored messages. 8 months. They still had no idea where I was. Part of me wanted to stay hidden forever, to keep being this new, interesting Samantha who no one had ever judged. But another part, the one that had grown stronger with every country, every deal closed, knew it was time. Not for them. For me. For the satisfaction of showing them exactly who I had become. I typed out an email to Victoria. I accept your offer. When do we start? Her response was immediate, Monday. Welcome to Apex. That weekend, I began my return to the visible world. I flipped my phone fully on for the first time in months. The cascade of notifications was overwhelming. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, emails. I ignored them all. For now. Instead, I opened LinkedIn. Updated my profile. International Supply Chain Consultant, Apex Pharmaceutical Distribution. I added the highlights of my consulting work, professional, but clearly successful. Then, I posted a single update, excited to announce I'm joining Apex Pharmaceutical Distribution, optimizing international supply chains. Looking forward to this next chapter. I knew it would hit my family's world like a bomb. They had no idea where I'd been, what I'd been doing. Now, they'd see I wasn't just fine, I was thriving. My phone started ringing within 10 minutes. Jessica. I let it ring. Mom. Danny. I ignored them all. That evening, I immersed myself in Apex's files. As I reviewed their supply chain challenges, a slow, delicious smile spread across my face. Their biggest competitor? The company eating their lunch in Asia? It was my old employer. The pharmaceutical distribution company where I'd spent 6 years being reliable, quiet, and easily overlooked. And now I was being hired specifically to help Apex beat them. The irony? It was absolutely delicious. On Sunday evening, I finally opened my family's messages. Months of worry, guilt, anger, confusion, desperate pleading. I read every single one. I felt nothing but a distant pity. Then I composed a single message for the group chat. Hi everyone. I'm fine. Been traveling and working. Sorry for the silence. I'll be in touch soon. Simple. Unapologetic. No explanations. Jessica called immediately. I declined. Texted her. Not ready to talk yet, but I'm okay. The next morning, I started my new job. Victoria wasted no time. I was immediately thrust into meetings with Apex's executive team. I presented my initial assessment, my proposed solutions. They listened. Really listened. It was an attention I'd never received at my old job. Gregory, the CEO, a sharp man, nodded, a slow smile growing on his face. This is exactly what we needed, Samantha. You're going to help us change the game. I smiled back. That's the plan. My first major Apex project took me back to Vietnam, to those manufacturers my old company had completely failed to understand. I flew from Barcelona to Ho Chi Minh City with a clear mandate: establish ironclad partnerships with 3 key suppliers. The trip exceeded all expectations. My established relationships paid off. I secured exclusive agreements with 2 suppliers who'd been utterly frustrated by my former employer's rigid, impersonal approach. The third? A new, family-run operation. High-quality pharmaceutical packaging exceeding U.S. standards, 40% cheaper. When I presented those contracts back in Barcelona via video conference, Gregory actually stood up and applauded. Samantha, he boomed, in 3 weeks, you've done what our previous consultant couldn't do in 6 months. These contracts alone will save us almost $2 million annually. Victoria, who rarely smiled, beamed. I knew you were the right choice. The executive team wanted to expand my role. That night, I finally called my family. Not out of obligation. I was ready. Mom answered on the first ring. Samantha. Oh my God, is that really you? Hi, Mom. My voice was calm. Where are you? What have you been doing? We've been so worried. I'm in Barcelona. Been traveling and working. I'm an international supply chain consultant. A stunned silence. Europe? How long? 9 months. Her voice climbed an octave. 9 months. And you didn't think to tell us where you were. You didn't think to tell me I wasn't invited to Jessica's wedding until 3 weeks before, I said, pleasantly. I figured we were even. Another silence. Longer. More uncomfortable. Samantha, that's not fair. We apologized. It was a terrible mistake. It wasn't a mistake, Mom. Mistakes are accidental. You had a list of people. My name wasn't on it. That was a choice. Your sister's been devastated. Has she? I countered. Because in the wedding photos, everyone looked pretty happy. Nobody looked like they were missing anything. We need to talk about this as a family, she said, that familiar maternal authority creeping in. When are you coming home? I'm not sure. My work is here now. What work? You had a perfectly good job in Denver. I quit that job. I have a new one. A better one. I could almost hear her brain struggling. Her predictable daughter was now unrecognizable. I want to talk properly, she finally said. Face to face. Can you at least video call? Maybe later this week. I have to go, Mom. Work calls. Samantha, wait. I hung up. It felt surprisingly, exhilaratingly good. Jessica's call came next. Pure guilt trip. Sam, I can't believe you just disappeared. Do you have any idea what that did to me on my wedding day? Knowing my sister was out there, angry? Did it ruin your day? I asked. What? No. I guess everything worked out fine then. That's cruel, Sam. That's not like you. Maybe you don't know what I'm like, I said, quietly. Maybe nobody does. We grew up together. I'm your sister. Sisters remember to invite each other to their weddings. She started crying. It wasn't my fault. Mom and Dad handled the travel. You trusted them to handle everything, I shot back, except checking if your own sister was actually invited. That says something, Jessica. I'm sorry. How many times do I have to say it? I'm not angry anymore, I admitted, honestly. I'm just done being invisible. You were never invisible to me. I was. I'm the boring one. Remember? No architecture career, no perfect wedding, no interesting life. Just reliable old Sam, who you could forget about because she'd always be there anyway. That's not true. Then tell me, Jessica, I challenged her, when was the last time you asked me about my life? What I wanted? What I was doing? What mattered to me? The silence stretched. She couldn't answer. She couldn't remember. Because it had never happened. I have to go, I said. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope you're very happy. I hung up. Danny tried anger. What the hell, Sam? You vanished for 9 months. Dad thought you might be dead. I sent a message saying I was fine. 1 message in 9 months. That's insane. Is it? I asked. Or is that about as much attention as I usually get from this family? Oh, come on. Don't play the victim. You're the one who ghosted everyone. After being ghosted first, I pointed out. Seems fair. You're being childish. Maybe. Or maybe I'm finally standing up for myself. Did that ever occur to you? By running away to Europe? I didn't run away, Danny. I left. There's a difference. Whatever. When are you coming back? I don't know. Why does everyone keep asking that? Because you live here. You have a family here. I have a job in Barcelona. Clients in Asia. This is where my life is now. Danny made an exasperated sound. You can't just decide to live in Spain, Sam. That's not how life works. Actually, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face, it's exactly how life works. When you're an adult with money and skills, you go where you want. You do what you want. You stop waiting for permission from people who barely notice you exist. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed, a sharp, cold sound. You want to talk about fair? Tell me, Danny, when was my birthday? Silence. He didn't know. Of course I know. What day, Danny? More silence. It was 3 months ago. Not one of you remembered. Not Mom. Not Dad. Not Jessica. And definitely not you. I turned 28 in Bangkok, completely alone. And my family didn't even notice. So forgive me if I'm not rushing back to Denver for a reunion. After those calls, I muted the family group chat. No more drama. I focused on my work. Victoria meant business. Within 2 weeks, I was promoted to senior consultant with a significant raise and equity options. My territory expanded, not just Southeast Asia, but Eastern Europe. Apex wanted new supplier relationships there. I moved from Barcelona to Prague. I'd never been, but instantly fell in love. The architecture, the history, the culture. It felt like a place I could finally put down temporary roots, keeping the flexibility my work demanded. My consulting work? It was soaring. I had a reputation, the one who could navigate complex international partnerships, solve impossible supply chain problems. Offers started pouring in from other companies. But I stayed loyal to Apex. They'd taken a chance on me. Victoria had become a true mentor. Meanwhile, my family's messages kept coming. Guilt trips evolved into outright manipulation. Mom's emails detailed Dad's declining health due to my absence. Jessica forwarded articles on family forgiveness. Danny tried to buddy me, sending memes, acting like nothing had happened. I'd send brief, I'm alive and well replies. Nothing more. Then, 6 weeks into Prague, Victoria called. Samantha, she said, her voice serious, we need to talk about something sensitive. I'm sending you an encrypted file. Look at it, then call me back. The file contained internal documents from my former employer in Denver. Apex had somehow obtained their new expansion strategy. It was aggressive. They were planning to undercut Apex's pricing everywhere, using what looked like insider knowledge of our cost structures. How did they get this? I asked Victoria when I called back. We think there's someone on the inside. Someone who knows our contracts. She paused. Samantha, I need to ask directly. You worked there for 6 years. Did you sign a non-compete? No, I replied, a bitter laugh escaping. I was just an analyst. Not important enough for a non-compete. And no contact with anyone since you left? None, I confirmed. I quit without notice and disappeared. Remember? Victoria was silent for a moment. The timeline matches. They started getting aggressive right around when you were building our Asian relationships. My mind raced. You think they're copying my strategy? How would they even know what I was doing? That's what we need to find out. Anyone there who might have tracked your movements? Anyone who knew about your new position? I pictured my old office, the faces I'd worked with for 6 years. Most hadn't noticed when I left. But one. There was someone, I said slowly. Trevor. In my department. Always competitive. Always looking for an edge. He knew my methods. Is he still there? As far as I know. Let me check. I logged into LinkedIn. Trevor's profile. Still at my former employer. But promoted. He was now Director of International Supply Chain Strategy. Victoria, I said, my voice dangerously calm, he has my old job. Or rather, the job I should have gotten. Send me his info, she snapped. We need to figure out if he's tracking your work. Over the next week, Victoria's team dug deep. What they found was both infuriating and, honestly, a little flattering. Trevor had been monitoring my LinkedIn, my consulting activities, even my travel patterns. He'd been using my success as a roadmap, following 3 months behind, approaching the exact same suppliers I'd cultivated, trying to undercut my relationships. But he wasn't me. He lacked the cultural sensitivity, the patience, the genuine relationship-building skills. Most suppliers had rejected his offers or given him minimal access, staying loyal to the partnerships I'd established. Still, his clumsy attempts were causing problems. Suppliers were confused, starting to distrust both companies. We need to shut this down, Victoria said during our next call. Samantha, I know this is asking a lot, but would you be willing to go back to Denver? Apex wants to open a U.S. regional office. Your presence there would send a strong message. You could directly counter whatever Trevor's doing. Denver. Home. The place I'd fled a year ago. When? I asked. 3 months. Gives you time to finish your Eastern Europe projects. We want you focused on the U.S. market, directly competing with your old company. They'll realize I'm specifically targeting them. Good, she said, a glint in her eye. Let them realize it. You're better at this than anyone they have. It's time they knew it. After the call, I sat in my Prague apartment, looking out at the city lights. A year ago, I was invisible, forgotten, left behind. Now, I was being asked to return as a strategic weapon. The irony was almost too perfect. I called my mother. It was time. Mom, I said, my voice steady, I'm coming back to Denver. The sound she made was a shaky gasp, almost a sob. Really? Oh, Samantha, I'm so glad. When? 3 months. For work. Apex is opening a regional office there. And I'll be running it. Silence. You'll be running an office? But I thought you were just consulting. I was. Now I'm being promoted to regional director. It's a significant position. I had no idea you were doing so well. You didn't ask, I stated. Another pause. You're right, she said, her voice quieter now. I didn't. I'm sorry for that, sweetheart. Truly. And surprisingly, I believed her. But I'm not coming back as the old Samantha, I warned her. That person doesn't exist anymore. I'm coming back on my own terms. With my own life, my own career. If you, Dad, Jessica, and Danny want to be part of that life, you'll need to accept that. Of course we will, she rushed. We just want you back in our lives. We'll see, I replied. I'll let you know when I land. The 3 months flew by. I wrapped up my Eastern European projects, trained my replacement. Prepared for my return to Denver. Apex had leased sleek, modern office space downtown. Nothing like my old cubicle. They'd given me a generous budget, full autonomy to build my team. I wasn't just returning to Denver. I was returning as someone who mattered. The night before my flight, I had one last video call with Victoria. Samantha, she said, her expression serious. I want you to know something. When I first reached out to you a year ago, I was taking a risk. No official consulting experience, just those projects you'd cobbled together. But something told me you were special. You've proved me right beyond my wildest expectations. Thank you. That means a lot, I responded, genuinely touched. This new position isn't just about competing with your old employer. We're betting on you to build something significant. Apex wants to dominate the U.S. pharmaceutical distribution market in 5 years. You're going to help us do that. No pressure, then, I said with a smile. She laughed. You thrive under pressure. That's why we hired you. One more thing, your old employer knows you're coming back. Word's gotten out. Expect them to react. Let them react, I said, a fire in my belly. I'm ready. I landed in Denver on a crisp October afternoon. Exactly 1 year and 1 month after I'd left. The city looked the same, but I felt completely different. I checked into my hotel. Apex was covering temporary housing. That evening was spent unpacking, preparing. No calls to the family. That could wait. The Apex regional office was on the 14th floor, downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows with mountain views. And an office with my name on the door, Samantha, regional director. I stood there, just taking it in. A year ago, I was an analyst in a cubicle, easily forgotten. Now, my own office. My own team to build. My first hire was crucial. Someone who knew the local market, but wasn't tied to the existing players. 2 weeks of interviews, and I found her, Patricia. Not my old supervisor, a different Patricia. Sharp, ambitious, a former operations manager at a medical device company. Exactly what I needed. I'll be honest, she said during her interview, her gaze direct. I know who you are. The analyst who disappeared, came back as a consultant, built a reputation in Asia, and is now positioned to take on her former employer. It's a great story. It's not a story, I corrected her softly. It's my life. Even better, she grinned. I want to be part of it. When do I start? She started the following Monday. We began building the operation, hiring a logistics coordinator, a business analyst. A small team, but mighty. Meanwhile, my family's persistence was growing. They knew I was back in Denver from my LinkedIn post, but I still hadn't reached out. Finally, after 2 weeks, I agreed to dinner. Not at home. A restaurant. Mom, Dad, Jessica, and her husband Brandon, Danny. They looked older. More tired. Or maybe I was just seeing them clearly for the first time. Dinner was awkward. Everyone tried too hard to be normal, to pretend the last year hadn't happened. Then, my father cleared his throat. Samantha, he began, his voice thick, we owe you an apology. A real one. What we did, leaving you out of Jessica's wedding, it was unforgivable. We got caught up in the excitement, the planning, and we forgot the most important thing. You. We didn't forget her. Mom interjected. We forgot her, Dad cut in firmly. Let's be honest. Samantha was always the easy child. The one who didn't demand attention, didn't need the spotlight. And we took advantage of that. We let her slip into the background because it was convenient. Jessica was crying quietly. Danny stared at his plate. I'm sorry, Dad continued. You deserved better from us. You still deserve better. If you'll give us a chance, we want to do better. I looked at each of them. My family. The people who had shaped me, forgotten me, and inadvertently pushed me towards becoming someone stronger. I appreciate that, I said carefully. But I need you to understand something. I'm not the same person who left. I don't need your approval anymore. I don't need to be included in family events to feel valued. I've built a life that matters to me, with or without you in it. We understand, Mom said quickly. We just want to be in your life, whatever that looks like. Then you need to accept that my life is here in Denver, but also in Prague and Bangkok and wherever my work takes me. You need to accept that I am successful, independent. And you need to stop treating me like reliable, boring Samantha who exists to make everyone else comfortable. We never thought you were boring. Jessica choked out. I looked at my sister, the one I had once idolized. Yes, you did. You all did. But that's okay. It taught me something important. What? Danny asked, finally looking up. That being forgotten can be the greatest gift, I said, a small, knowing smile on my face. It forced me to find out who I was without you. And I like who I found. Dinner ended with tentative plans. I promised to come to Sunday dinners occasionally. They promised to actually remember my birthday next year. Small steps towards something that might one day resemble a healthy relationship. But I wasn't holding my breath. The real test came 2 weeks later. Trevor reached out. LinkedIn, of course. His message was brief. Heard you're back in town. We should grab coffee. Would love to hear about your travels. I stared at it. This man. Following my work, copying my strategies, trying to ride my success, while I'd been utterly invisible to him when we worked in the same office. Sure, I replied. How about Tuesday at 10 a.m.? He suggested a coffee shop near my old office. I countered, one near my new office. He agreed. It was time to remind everyone exactly who had taught them their best moves. Trevor looked exactly as I remembered him, confident, polished, the kind of guy who always got noticed while I faded into the background. He stood when I entered, flashing that charming smile that probably landed him my promotion. Samantha, you look great. Europe clearly agreed with you. It did, I said, shaking his hand briefly. We ordered coffee. Made small talk about Denver, the weather. Nothing substantial. He was circling, trying to figure out his angle. Finally, he leaned forward. I have to say, I've been following your work. Very impressive. That Vietnam deal everyone's talking about? Brilliant. Thank you. I took a slow sip of my coffee. You were always good at the detail work, Trevor. I remember working on that Thailand project. Your methodical approach. I smiled slightly. I remember that project. You presented my analysis to the executives and took credit for it. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. That was just how things worked back then, Sam. Team effort, you know. Of course, I hummed. So, why did you want to meet? Trevor relaxed, thinking he'd successfully glossed over the past. I wanted to pick your brain about the Asian markets. We're expanding there. Honestly, we could use insights from someone who's been on the ground. You want me to help my competitor? We don't have to be competitors, Sam. There's room for multiple players. Maybe we could even collaborate on some projects. I set down my cup carefully. Trevor, you've been following my LinkedIn for a year. You've been approaching the exact same suppliers I cultivated, using the exact same strategies I developed, trying to replicate my success. And now you want to collaborate? His face cycled through shock, irritation, then settled on defensive. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. The question is, why did you get the promotion I should have had? You're in the position I worked toward for 6 years. Why are you so interested in what I am doing? He was quiet. And then I saw it, not guilt, but raw envy, flicker in his eyes. Because you're good at this, he said, his voice low. Better than me, maybe. You always were. You see things other people miss. You build relationships that last. And now you're with Apex. And they're beating us in every market you touch. And whose fault is that? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I didn't force you to leave. No. You just made sure I stayed invisible long enough that leaving was the only option. Trevor leaned back. What do you want me to say, Samantha? That I'm sorry? That I wish things had been different. I don't want you to say anything, I said, standing up. I just wanted you to know that I know exactly what you've been doing. And it hasn't worked. His jaw tightened. We're doing fine. You're hemorrhaging market share to Apex. In 6 months, we've captured 15% of the pharmaceutical distribution market in Southeast Asia. Your company has dropped by 12% in the same period. Those numbers are public, Trevor. Anyone can see them. So, you came back here to gloat? No, I said, looking down at him. I came back here to finish what I started. I turned. For the first time in all the years I'd known him, I saw genuine uncertainty in his eyes. Enjoy your coffee, I said. And Trevor? Stop following my LinkedIn. It's a little pathetic. I walked out. Never looked back. That evening, Victoria called. She was already smiling. I heard about your meeting with Trevor, she chuckled. How did you? Industry's smaller than you think, I cut in. People talk. Especially when someone shuts down the competition's golden boy in public. Well done, she affirmed. I just told him the truth. Exactly what he needed to hear. Samantha, I have news. The executive team reviewed the quarterly projections. Your impact on our growth? cannot be overstated. We want to expand your role again. You've exceeded every target we set. Gregory wants to make you Vice President of International Operations. You'd oversee all our global supply chain initiatives, not just the US region. I sat down slowly. Vice President. A title that would have taken decades at my old company. If ever. I'd been back in Denver less than 2 months. That's substantial. You've earned it, she said, firmly. The board meeting is next week. They want you to present your strategy for the next 2 years. Show them what you showed us in Vietnam and Prague. Convince them you can scale that success globally. After the call, I sat in my apartment, looking out at the Denver skyline. A year ago, I'd left this city feeling worthless, forgotten, invisible. Now, I was being offered a vice presidency at a company that valued my work. But I wasn't done yet. The board presentation was scheduled for Thursday. I spent a week preparing, pulling data, projections, case studies. Patricia, my new colleague, was invaluable. She pushed back, strengthened the narrative. You need to show them you're not just good at tactics, she advised. You need to prove you think strategically, that you understand the big picture. She was right. I restructured the presentation to tell a story, where Apex was, where the market was heading, and how my approach would position them to dominate in 5 years. The night before, my mother called. Sweetheart, she started, her voice soft. I just wanted to tell you how proud I am. Jessica saw something on LinkedIn about a promotion. Potentially, I corrected. I have a board presentation tomorrow. That's wonderful. What will you be presenting? I actually found myself explaining it to her, walking her through my strategy, my vision. She listened, truly listened, asking questions that showed she was actually trying to understand. Samantha, she finally said, sounding genuinely amazed. I had no idea you were doing work at this level. This is remarkable. It's what I've been building toward. I know I've said this before, but I really am sorry we didn't see it. We didn't see you. You were always there, always reliable, and we took that for granted. You did, I confirmed. Can I come to Denver next month? Just me, not the whole family. I'd like to take you to dinner and actually talk. Really talk. About your life. Your work. Everything we missed. I considered it. Maybe. Let me get through this presentation first. Of course. Good luck tomorrow, honey. Not that you need it. I have a feeling you're going to impress everyone. The presentation was at 9 a.m. in Apex's Chicago headquarters. I flew in the night before, rehearsed one last time, and arrived at 8:30. Gregory greeted me. Nervous? Focused, I replied. Good answer. The board's tough but fair. Show them what you've shown us, you'll be fine. The boardroom was intimidating. A long table, leather chairs, 7 board members, plus Gregory and Victoria. Their expressions ranged from curious to skeptical. I was young for a VP. Less than a year with the company. I understood their doubts. I started with Vietnam, detailing how I identified the opportunity, built relationships, secured contracts saving millions. Then Prague and the Eastern European partnerships opening new markets. This is impressive work, one board member conceded, but it's one thing to succeed in specific projects. Can you scale this approach across all international operations? I clicked to my next slide, a global map, target markets, potential partners, projected growth rates. Yes, I said simply. Here's how. For the next 30 minutes, I laid out my strategy, underserved markets, local partnerships over corporate mandates, cultural respect, global logistics. The key, I emphasized, is recognizing that international supply chain management isn't about controlling everything centrally. It's about building trust in each region and connecting those relationships into a coherent network. My competitors, including my former employer, fail because they force a one-size-fits-all approach. We will succeed because we adapt. Another board member leaned forward. You keep referring to your former employer. Are you proposing we specifically target them? I am proposing, I said, meeting his gaze. We operate so effectively that they become irrelevant. If that involves directly competing for their market share, then yes, that's aggressive. That's business. Gregory was beaming. Victoria looked utterly satisfied. The board members exchanged glances. I saw the shift. I had won them over. The board chair, Diane, an elegant woman in her 60s, spoke. Miss Samantha, you left your previous employer a year ago. You spent that year traveling, building skills. Why Apex when you could have gone anywhere? I thought about it. Victoria took a chance on me when I was unproven. She saw potential where others would have seen a resume gap and questionable decisions. Apex gave me room to succeed or fail on my own merits. That is rare. That is valuable. And that is worth building something exceptional for. Diane nodded slowly. One more question. What do you want to achieve here? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I want to make Apex the dominant player in international pharmaceutical distribution. I want to build something that lasts, that matters. And in 5 years, I want to look back and know that I turned potential into reality. Thank you, she said. We will deliberate and let you know our decision. I left the boardroom, waiting in Gregory's office. Victoria joined me. That was one of the best presentations I've ever seen, she assured me. You have nothing to worry about. 20 minutes later, Gregory returned, grinning. Congratulations, Madam Vice President. You start immediately. The promotion was announced company-wide that afternoon. My LinkedIn profile updated automatically. Within hours, messages poured in, congratulations from colleagues, connection requests from competitors. And one particularly interesting message from my old company's CEO, Samantha, congratulations on your new role. I wish we had recognized your talents when you were with us. If you are ever interested in discussing opportunities, my door is open. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. They had their chance. Over the next 3 months, I built my team. And I executed my strategy. Patricia, my new right hand, transferred to Chicago as my director of operations. We hired regional managers for Asia, Europe, Latin America. I traveled constantly, visiting suppliers, negotiating contracts, building the global network I'd envisioned. Slowly, methodically, we dismantled my former employer's competitive advantages. Every supplier they'd taken for granted, we courted. Every market they'd ignored, we entered. Every relationship they'd damaged through arrogance, we repaired. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about doing the work better than anyone else. The results spoke for themselves. Within 6 months of my VP promotion, Apex captured 28% of the international pharmaceutical distribution market. My former employer? They plummeted to 18%. Their stock price tanked. Their board fired their CEO. And Trevor? He lost his job. I saw it on LinkedIn, his profile quietly updated to seeking new opportunities. Part of me felt a flicker of satisfaction. A larger part felt nothing at all. He was no longer relevant to my story. My family slowly worked their way back into my life. Sunday dinners became occasional occurrences, but I held firm boundaries. I shared details about my work when I wanted to, deflected when I didn't. They were learning to see me for who I actually was, not who they'd assumed. Jessica and I had coffee one afternoon, just the two of us. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, she began, her eyes earnest. About how I never asked about your life. You were right. I was so focused on my career, my wedding, my own life, I never considered yours. I know. I want to do better. Can you tell me about your work? Really tell me? Not just the LinkedIn version. So I did. I told her about Vietnam, about negotiating in different cultures, about the deep satisfaction of building something from nothing. She listened. Truly listened. Asking questions that showed genuine interest. You know what's funny? She said when I finished. I always thought I was the successful sister. The one with the impressive career and perfect life. But you built something I never could. You took a massive risk, reinvented yourself, and came back stronger. I'm actually jealous. Don't be, I told her gently. You have your path. I have mine. They don't have to compete. When did you get so wise? She asked, a soft smile on her face. Somewhere between Bangkok and Barcelona, I replied, a genuine smile spreading across my own face. A year and a half after I disappeared from my family's life, I stood in Apex's Chicago headquarters, looking at the quarterly projections. We just closed the biggest deal in company history, an exclusive partnership with an Indian manufacturing consortium that would supply 30% of the U.S. pharmaceutical market. Gregory called me into his office. "Samantha," he said, his face alight. "The board wants to offer you a seat. You'd be the youngest board member in Apex's history." I accepted. That evening, I took myself out to dinner. No family, no colleagues. Just me. I ordered wine, a perfect steak, and dessert. I sat there, savoring every bite, every moment, thinking about the journey that had brought me here. 2 years ago, I was invisible, forgotten, left behind. Today, I was a board member of a major pharmaceutical distribution company, overseeing international operations across 4 continents, earning more money than I'd ever imagined. But more than that, I had become someone I respected. Someone who didn't wait for permission or validation. Someone who built her own path when the old one disappeared. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "Saw the news about the board appointment. So proud of you, sweetheart. Sunday dinner to celebrate." I smiled. Typed back, "Maybe. I have a flight to Singapore on Monday. Let me check my schedule." Because that was my life now. International flights, board meetings, strategic decisions affecting thousands. And a family that had finally learned I was worth remembering. In the months that followed, the consequences for those who had overlooked me became painfully clear. Trevor never recovered. He ended up in a junior position at a much smaller firm, stuck for years, forever wondering what could have been. My former employer continued to hemorrhage market share, eventually acquired by a competitor at a fraction of their value. The executive team who'd passed me over found themselves explaining to shareholders how they'd lost the industry's most valuable strategist. Jessica's perfect life revealed cracks, her marriage struggled, and she often called me for advice, finally seeing me as someone worth consulting. My parents, humbled, made genuine efforts to understand my life, though they would never fully comprehend the depth of what their neglect had cost me. As I sit in my Chicago office now, watching planes take off towards destinations I'll visit next week, I realize the greatest revenge wasn't their downfall. It was my rise. They forgot me. And in that forgetting, they freed me to become extraordinary. So, what do you think? If you were in my shoes, facing that kind of betrayal, would you have disappeared to find yourself, or would you have stayed and fought? I'm genuinely curious what you would have done.